if I told you the human mind might not just observe reality, it might change it, not in a motivational sense, not through positive thinking, but physically, altering outcomes, influencing matter, even bending probability itself. Now, imagine this. What if governments discovered this decades ago and quietly tried to weaponize it? Because buried inside declassified intelligence files is a story so strange that even the scientists who studied it struggled to explain what they were seeing. Secret experiments, psychic spies, quantum mysteries, and a disturbing question that still hasn't been answered. Did intelligence agencies accidentally uncover proof that human consciousness can influence reality itself? Tonight, we're opening one of the strangest chapters in modern history, a chapter that begins during the most paranoid era of the 20th century, the Cold War. In the 1950s, the United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a silent war, not just a war of weapons, but a war of ideas. Each side feared the other might discover some revolutionary advantage first, a new technology, a new weapon, or something even more unpredictable: the power of the human mind. Rumors began circulating through intelligence circles, stories from Soviet defectors, reports from researchers, whispers that the Soviets were studying psychic phenomena, telepathy, mind control, remote viewing. Most scientists dismiss these claims as pseudoscience, but intelligence agencies could not afford to ignore them. Because during the Cold War, even a 1% chance that psychic abilities were real was considered a national security threat, and that fear led to one of the most unusual government research programs ever created, a classified project known as Project Stargate. Its mission sounded like something straight out of science fiction. Find people who could see distant places using only their minds. No cameras, no satellites, just consciousness. The concept was called remote viewing. Participants would sit in a sealed room, no windows, no outside information. Then a scientist would hand them a simple instruction. Describe a location thousands of miles away. Sometimes it was a military base, sometimes a hidden building, sometimes an unknown target chosen randomly. Most participants saw nothing, but a few individuals produced results that stunned researchers. One of the most famous was Ingo Swann. Swann claimed he could mentally travel anywhere in the solar system. To test him, scientists tried something unusual. They asked him to describe the planet Jupiter. At the time, astronomers believed they already understood the gas giant fairly well. But during the session, Swann described something unexpected: a ring around Jupiter. Scientists immediately dismissed the claim. Jupiter didn't have rings. Everyone knew that, except years later, spacecraft sent back images proving something shocking. Jupiter does have rings, very faint ones, but rings nonetheless. Swann described them before they were officially discovered. Was it coincidence, lucky guessing, or something stranger? Another participant, Joseph McMoneagle, reportedly described the hidden Soviet military installations with eerie accuracy. In one case, he sketched the layout of a facility he had never seen. Years later, satellite images appeared to match parts of his drawing. To some intelligence officials, this was enough to justify continued research. And the program quietly continued for more than 20 years. Millions of dollars were spent. Hundreds of sessions were conducted. But remote viewing raised a deeper question. Because if the mind could perceive distant places, could it also influence reality itself? That question leads us into one of the most unsettling experiments in modern science. An experiment that suggests observation might actually change the physical world. It's known as the Double-Slit Experiment. At first glance, it seems simple. Scientists fire tiny particles, electrons or photons, toward a barrier with two small openings. Behind the barrier is a screen that records where the particles land. If particles behave like solid objects, they should pass through one slit or the other, and the screen should show two lines. But that's not what happens. Instead, something bizarre occurs. The particles create a wave pattern, as if each particle somehow passes through both slits at the same time. But the moment scientists try to observe which slit the particle goes through, the wave pattern disappears. Suddenly, the particle behaves normally again. Just two lines. It's as if the particle knows it's being watched. For decades, physicists have debated what this means. Some interpretations suggest the act of observation collapses possibilities into reality. In other words, reality might not fully exist until something observes it. And that raises a deeply uncomfortable question. What exactly counts as an observer? A detector? A measuring device? Or consciousness itself? If consciousness plays a role, then the human mind might be far more connected to reality than we realize. And that possibility fascinated one of the most brilliant inventors who ever lived. His name was Nikola Tesla. Tesla claimed he possessed a remarkable ability. He could build machines entirely inside his mind, not vague ideas, detailed mechanisms, moving gears, spinning rotors, electrical circuits. Instead of building prototypes, Tesla would mentally visualize the entire device. Then he would run it in his imagination, day after day, watching every component move. If something broke, he could see exactly where the failure occurred. He would adjust the design mentally, then run the simulation again, sometimes for months. Only after everything worked perfectly in his mind would he construct the physical machine. And incredibly, when he finally built them, they often worked exactly as expected. Tesla once made a mysterious statement: "My brain is only a receiver." He believed ideas came from somewhere outside the mind, from a deeper layer of reality. But perhaps the most astonishing examples of mental control don't come from inventors or scientists. They come from monks living high in the Himalayan mountains. For centuries, Tibetan monks have practiced an unusual form of meditation called Tummo meditation. The technique is sometimes called inner fire meditation. Practitioners claim they can generate intense heat inside their bodies using only mental focus. At first, Western scientists assumed this was exaggeration, until researchers actually tested it. In the 1980s, scientists monitored Tibetan monks meditating in freezing temperatures. The monks sat outside wearing thin cloth robes. Around their shoulders, researchers placed cold, wet sheets. Normally, the freezing air would make the sheets stay soaked. But something incredible happened. As the monks entered deep meditation, steam began rising from their bodies. The wet sheets started to dry. Thermometers attached to the monks' skin recorded dramatic changes. Their body temperature increased significantly, some by more than 17 degrees Fahrenheit. No movement, no exercise, just concentration. The mind had changed the body's physical state. But what if the mind could influence something outside the body as well? That question led to another unusual experiment. At Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab, scientists began studying machines designed to produce pure randomness. Random number generators. These devices create unpredictable sequences of numbers. In theory, no one should be able to influence them. But researchers had a strange idea. What if human intention could subtly affect the results? Volunteers sat in front of the machines. They focused their thoughts, trying to mentally push the numbers higher or lower. At first, nothing happened. But after thousands of trials, researchers noticed something unusual: tiny statistical shifts, extremely small deviations from perfect randomness. The numbers seemed slightly biased toward what the participants were thinking. The effect was subtle, almost microscopic, but it appeared again and again across years of experiments. Was it chance, experimental error, or evidence that consciousness can influence physical systems? Even today, scientists disagree. Skeptics argue that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. And they're right. None of these experiments definitively proves the mind can bend reality. But conspiracy theorists believe something else may have happened. They believe intelligence agencies did discover something unusual, something unpredictable, something powerful. And if that were true, it might explain a curious decision made in 1995. That was the year the Central Intelligence Agency officially shut down Project Stargate. The public explanation was simple. The program didn't produce reliable intelligence. End of story. But when researchers later examined the released documents, they noticed something strange. Some internal reports suggested remote viewing had worked occasionally, not perfectly, not consistently. but enough to raise questions. So, why cancel the program after 20 years? One theory says the results were too inconsistent. Another theory is more unsettling. The real research never stopped. It simply moved somewhere else, somewhere deeper inside classified projects the public will never see. And here's the twist. Modern science may actually be moving closer to these ideas. Quantum physics increasingly suggests reality is not as solid or predictable as we once believed. Particles behave like waves. Observation influences outcomes. Probability shapes the universe. At the same time, neuroscience is discovering just how deeply the mind can influence the body. Placebo effects, neuroplasticity, psychosomatic healing. The brain can literally reshape physical processes, but the ultimate question remains unanswered. What exactly is consciousness? Is it simply a product of brain chemistry, or something more fundamental to the universe itself? Some physicists have even proposed that consciousness might be woven into the fabric of reality. If that's true, then the human mind may not just observe the universe, it may participate in creating it. And that leaves us with one final possibility. What if the secret experiments of the Cold War weren't chasing pseudoscience at all? What if they were exploring something humanity still doesn't fully understand? Something powerful, something dangerous, something that suggests reality might be more flexible than we think. Because if thoughts can influence outcomes, even in the smallest way, then every human mind may possess a hidden ability we've barely begun to explore. Which leads to a chilling question. If governments really discovered that the mind can influence reality, would they ever tell us? Or would that knowledge remain buried inside classified files, hidden behind locked doors, locked away forever?